So a referendum. Now we studied what a referendum is in Unit 9. Unit 9 under democracy, we studied that referendum is a direct democracy method. Just to recap what direct democracy is, democracy was started off in ancient Greece as direct democracy. That means people govern themselves. People had the lawmaking power on themselves, which is not possible anymore, unfortunately, because we have way too much population, way too much complexity of problems, and of course, the issue with territories as well. So, because of that, we use representative democracy instead. We use representative democracy, which is a process where you have the legislature representing the people. Instead of us making our own laws, we appoint a legislature so people can come and people can appoint members to that legislature, the parliament, and they make the laws for us. So when the executive makes a decision, right, they normally take the approval of the legislature. They seek the approval of the legislature. Direct democracy means that letting people take part in governance, and the referendum is the most commonly used method. So referendum means instead of the legislature asking the people directly. So referendums were first introduced to Sri Lanka under the 1978 Constitution, 78 Second Republican Constitution, and referendum was a new feature. Referendums weren't there in Salisbury, neither in 72. Okay. So this is practically the process where that you get the public itself to approve a certain decision of the government. Like it's simple as that, right? So if you guys read it with me, referendums are a direct democracy method which allows the general public to take part in governance directly. In other words, referendum is a process where the executive seeks the approval of the public instead of the legislature for an important decision. In general, referendums do take place similar to the process of an election where the public gets to cast their approval in the form of a ballot paper. That means if the government is making a really important decision, right? If the government is making a really important decision, if the executive feels like, okay, you know what, I don't think asking these 225 people this important question is fair enough. Perhaps I should ask like literally everyone, all 23 million people, what do you all think? Okay. So how do we get to say whether we like it or not? That's why you have this process similar to an election. Just like an election, you will get your voting cards. Just like that, just like an election day, you have to walk to your closest, like your polling center. Just like the election day, you have to wait in the line. Just like the election day, you walk in and you give your voting card. They will check your NIC. And just like the election day, they'll paint your pinky finger and they will give you a ballot paper. The difference is, unlike ballot papers where you have names of political parties and candidates, here you have a question, and under the question it is written yes or no, right? So in Sri Lanka, the system goes as, if you are going yes, like the two symbols we use is the lamp and the pot, right? If you are saying yes, you put your cross to the lamp. If you are saying no, you put the cross to the pot, right? So after the election, they count the election results and they say that, okay, around like 50, whatever the percentage of people have said yes or no, whatever, and the government takes the decision accordingly. All right. Simple as that. Now, here's the thing. This is a very bold democratic feature in Sri Lanka. Okay. Keep in mind, this is a direct democracy method. Direct democracy is something very advanced that are normally used in European countries like Switzerland and all. So in Sri Lanka, we have referendum. So it can be called a very bold democratic feature, such a big positive. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This gets interesting at the end of the lesson, just like everything else in Sri Lanka. Okay. For now, let's call it a bold democratic feature. Okay. So why do we have referendums in the first place? The original constitution shows that when referendum should be held, right? According to the original constitution, the instance where a referendum should be held are as follows. First, like you have, as provided by Article 83 of Chapter 13 of the Constitution, in order to amend Articles 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 30 Clause 2, 62 Clause 2, right? it is necessary to get the constitutional amendment passed in the parliament with a two-third majority, as well as the public approval in a referendum. So these are the rigid provisions of the constitution, rigid articles. These articles cannot be just amended with a two-third majority. Now, we looked into this when we were discussing the amendment process of the constitution, right? Other articles, other than the articles which are mentioned here, these listed here, they can be changed with a two-third majority. These ones, no, you can't. For these, first you have to get it passed in the parliament with a two-third majority. Then you need the public approval in a referendum, right? So 1, 2, 3, of course, they refer to the name of the country, the fact that Sri Lanka is a unitary state, the fact that Sri Lanka has sovereignty lies with its people, right? Then 6, 7, 8, 9 goes as like the national flag, national anthem, right? If you want to change those things, just the parliament two-third majority is not enough. You need a referendum, right? Sounds good enough. Thus far, it does sound like a bold political feature, right? Hold on for now. Additionally, the Constitution provides that following drafted bills also require the public approval in referendum. First of all, if the Board of Ministers have declared that a certain bill or a part of a bill requires a public approval in referendum. Now, it doesn't have to be an entire bill. It doesn't have to be an entire drafted bill. You know, bill means like not the bill you get in the restaurant after eating food. The bill we are talking about a drafted bill, like the pre-position of a law. Before you get a law passed, you call that a bill, right? I hope that you are aware of it by this time, right? So the Board of Ministers, now we are talking about Prime Minister and the Cabinet, right? If they are saying a certain bill or even a part of a bill, you can say, okay, the bill is fine, but this particular part, this particular section should, like, you know, it deals with those things we talked about before, you know, it deals with these, connected to these articles. So because of that, this particular bill, or at least this part of that bill, requires a public approval through a referendum. That's how the saying goes, right? The bill requires a public approval in a referendum. Understand? That's how it works. If the Board of Ministers decide, or else there is another place that can decide that it requires a referendum, the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can go through a bill and say, okay, you know what, this requires a public approval in a referendum. Okay, question time. I'm going to ask you a question. Let's see whether anyone can unmute and say. Now, let's say I am the president of the country. I write a bill to get it passed. Okay. So then I am going to say, okay, you know what, I can just get this passed in the parliament, no problem. I'm just going to get this passed in the parliament and call it a law, right? But let's say someone, let's say some citizen in the country, let's say Rifki sees the bill I'm about to put to the parliament. He goes to Supreme Court and say, here, President Surya Bandar is about to pass this law only with the support of the parliament, only with the majority of the parliament. But I feel like, you know, it should be passed in a referendum. What do you think, Your Honor? What do you think? You are the Supreme Court. Supreme Court goes through that bill and they give a decision saying, here, President, you can't get this passed in the parliament. You have to put this to a referendum and get it passed. Okay. Now, in this scenario, what is the power that was used by the Supreme Court to stop me from passing that law? What is the answer? I was expecting someone to unmute and say, but yeah, I received in the chat. The person who put in the chat, can you put it for everyone to see? Oh, someone can unmute and say two. Yes, judicial. Okay, there's a small correction there. Now, the Supreme Court told me not to pass that before I got it passed in the parliament, right? So your answer should be corrected. It's mostly correct, but a little.
Judicial preview power.
Preview power, yes. Judicial preview power, right? The Supreme Court previewed what I was, it didn't review something I passed, right? It's preview power, judicial preview power, okay? So either the Board of Ministers, like this can happen like this. Now I am the president, I'm working with my Prime Minister and the Cabinet. while we are discussing this in the cabinet, they may tell me, okay, sir, I feel like this requires the public approval in referendum. Or I might put it to the parliament and then someone might go to Supreme Court and Supreme Court may tell me that, okay, you know what, you need a referendum. So if that is mentioned, I have to call a referendum. Okay, in the case of Supreme Court, I am bound to follow that because that judicial preview power. Board of Ministers, well, that's not legally bound, but that is also another situation. Other than these, the Constitution also provides the instances where President could decide the necessity of a referendum. Okay, now let's see. Any drafted bill rejected by the Parliament could be, okay, it should be passed. Okay. Passed through a referendum. This is provided that the given drafted bill is not a constitutional amendment. So imagine that I have a law put. I have decided to put a law as a drafted bill. I put it to the Parliament. Parliament rejects it, right? And if it is not a constitutional amendment, I can actually put that to the people. They'll be like, okay, Parliament, in your face, you said no to this. I'm going to get this passed from the people. The President is capable of doing that. Okay, or else the second one simply says regarding any other matter with national importance and the opinion of the President. If the President feels like, in President's opinion, if I feel like, okay, you know what, this seems like a case with like a national level of importance, I'm going to call a referendum instead of going to the Parliament. So this simply shows that if the President wants, even when the Parliament says no, he can still get it passed in a referendum. Or the President can simply ignore the legislature and go to the people straight away saying that, okay, this is a problem with national importance. Now, which is why I said a referendum is supposed to be a bold democratic feature. But it turns out to be that it is used in the 78th Constitution to make the President's powers even more stronger. Now, the President can completely ignore the legislature because he can get it passed in a referendum. Right. Is it clear up to that point? Right. If it is clear, now let's see how a referendum normally works. Now, look, the upcoming paragraph is not complex, right? Just pay attention and don't overthink it. I believe you guys did a fantastic job understanding the electoral methods. None of you all sort of like, I don't know, as far as I observed, none of you all were distracted, you all paid attention, and none of you all, like the ones who have a legacy of overthinking and asking me questions, you all didn't overthink that. So you all understood the method well. So if you understood that, this is going to be nothing, okay? This is just one fact. All right, this is how it works. So in order to receive the approval of a referendum, now I have called a referendum, right? Imagine I want to turn Sri Lanka into a federal country. So that means I have to amend the constitution, right? That means, okay, I've got it passed in the parliament. Two-thirds of the parliament says, okay, let's go federal, not a problem. Now I have to ask that from people. So if I am to change that part of the constitution and turn Sri Lanka federal, okay, first thing. Now I've called a referendum. First thing, it is necessary for the given bill to be passed with an absolute majority. That means above 50% of valid votes, right? Out of all the valid votes in the sense like the ballot papers that people have pointed out their liking, more than 50% should say, yes, we want to go federal. More than 50% should say, we are on board. Let's go ahead with this decision. Okay. That's clear. That's clear. Just like a presidential election, here also you have the 50% mark. You don't need like, there's only two options here, yes or no, right? So obviously one of the options will get 50%, so no problem there. Okay. Now the second part is where that you have to be clear. Okay. However, it should be noted that if less than 2/3 of the registered voters have casted their votes, now we are talking about a situation. Okay, now imagine something like this. Imagine something like this. Now I am the president. I am running the country. Let's imagine someone in this class. Okay, let's imagine someone in this class. Let's say Sarah has like sort of like turned into one of my enemies, right? Sarah was also running to be president and she couldn't defeat me, and now she has turned into a enemy and like she has gathered an army and she's sort of like running violence everywhere. She has said like, okay, President Surya Bandar has called a referendum. If you go and vote, we are going to kill you. This has actually happened in Sri Lanka. Like during elections, JVP was like armed all that time. JVP said, if you go and vote, you'll be killed, right? So imagine Sara is running a sort of like a revolution all over the country, and now people are scared to go out and vote in the referendum. Okay, imagine around like 50-55% of the people have turned out to vote, and out of them, majority of the people, you know, I like 50% of the people haven't said, okay, we are willing to go federal. Okay, so I haven't received 50% of valid votes. Why? Because most of the people haven't turned out to vote out of fear. Okay, or it could be something else. Maybe imagine there are floods, there are like really bad floods going on, so people can't come out. So less than 2/3 of the registered voters in the country have turned out to vote in the referendum. Or as like let's say COVID, because of COVID, people are worried, like because like the COVID clusters are there everywhere, so people don't want to come and vote. So less than 2/3 of the people actually come out to vote, right? So less than 66%. Okay, imagine around like only 50-55% of the people have come out to vote, and out of those votes, I have failed to gain the approval of more than 50%. Understand? So in that case, if less than 2/3 of the people have actually turned out to vote, in such a referendum, I don't need 50% of the valid votes, because a lot of people haven't turned out, right? Less than 2/3 of the people have actually turned out to vote. So in that case, I don't want 50%. In that case, having 1/3.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. But sir, can you please handle them, sir? They are not listening to me. I mean, Jishnu is also not there. Problem.
Now you see, in a normal referendum, you need more than 50% of the people coming on board with the referendum, with the government saying, okay, we are okay by doing that. If less than 2/3 of the people have turned out to vote, you don't need more than 50%. In that case, having 1/3 saying okay to the decision is good enough. Right? I hope this is clear. This is the simplest format I can give this to. Okay. Right. Please tell me if there's anyone who needs another explanation of that, or anyone who has a doubt. As long as you paid attention and you didn't overthink, like this is very easy to figure out. Right. Okay. The most important part is that president has the whole authority to call referendums. Now you saw in the beginning, it said that, okay, the cabinet may say, okay, sir, we feel like we need a referendum. Supreme Court may say, okay, president, you can't go ahead with this. You need a referendum. No matter who says we need a referendum, the point is, it's the president who can call the referendum. President has a solitary authority, sole authority to call a referendum. So unless he calls a referendum doesn't go forward. Okay, that shows the president has the power to control all the referendums in the country. Not only that, we can see that it has allowed the president to avoid the legislature altogether, and call referendums as well. Like, you know, he can simply do this just to avoid the legislature. And even when the legislature rejects a bill, he can take advantage of the fact that we have referendums, and he can completely ignore the parliament, and like he can completely ignore the fact that his policy was like rejected by the parliament. He can simply call for a referendum and get it passed. Now, after this was introduced in 1978, there was only one referendum held in Sri Lanka, 1982. This is why I said in the beginning, we said that the referendum is good, that's a democratic feature and all that. But this solitary referendum that was ever held in Sri Lanka was used for an undemocratic task. Okay, so you guys remember J.R. Jayawardena's government got like a 5-6 majority in the legislature. All right, and by 1982, J.R. Jayawardena realized, okay, next year I have to call a election, parliamentary election. So J.R. knew, okay, you know what, I will be able to win the next election, but I am not going to get a 5-6 majority again, right? So he thought, okay, is there a way that I can continue having this power? So in 1982, he went for a referendum asking like, do you guys want the election next year or not? That's practically the question said, like, do you want to extend the current parliament or not? Right? So the question was like, okay, we have a 5/6 majority power in the parliament, right? So it said like, do you want to continue with the current parliament for next 6 years? Or do you want to go for an election next year? That was the question asked. Okay, so given the fact that UNP anyway had a majority people supporting them, they managed to extend that 5/6 majority power to another 6 years, right? But if they actually went for an election, this 5/6 majority would have dropped. They still would have won, but they wouldn't have got a 5/6 majority. Okay, so that's all the legal part, but practically, after that it gets even uglier, where J.R. Jayawardena sort of called all his members of the parliament and told, I want your electorate won, I don't care how, good or bad, I don't care how. So 1982 referendum was one of the most corrupted elections ever held in Sri Lanka, one of the most rigged bias. There were instances of like thugs coming and just chasing away the people who came to vote, and everyone just putting the vote on themselves, just filling the ballot papers and then sending, right? So it's such an irony and a tragedy, such a bold democratic feature that is used in other countries is misused in Sri Lanka for such an undemocratic purpose. So we can see that rather than supporting democracy, referendums are used as a tool. It's used as a political tool in Sri Lanka to sort of like restrict democracy even further. So that's sad. Right. Let's read this. As you can see, referendum is very short. If you get this as a 10-mark question, bonus then and there. You don't have to write even like 1.5 pages would do. It can get you 10 out of 10. Okay. Right. Hishma, can you read?
Referendum. Referendums are a direct democracy method which allows the general public to take part in governance directly. In other words, referendum is a process where the executive seeks the approval of the public instead of the legislature for an important decision. In general, referendum do take place similar to the process of an election where the public gets to cast their approval in the form of a ballot paper. The first application of direct democracy in Sri Lanka was the introduction of referendums under the 1978 Second Republic of Constitution. This can be considered as a bold democratic feature in Sri Lanka. According to the original constitution, the instance where referendum should be held are as follows. As provided by Article 83 of Chapter 13 of the Constitution, in order to amend Article 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 32, 62, 2, it is necessary to get the constitutional amendment passed in the parliament with a 2/3 majority as well as the public approval in a referendum. Additionally, the Constitution provides that following drafted bills also require the public approval in referendum. If the Board of Ministers have decided that a certain bill or a part of a bill requires the public approval in a referendum, if the Supreme Court have decided that a certain bill or a part of a bill requires the public approval in referendum. Other than this, the Constitution also provides, for instance, where the President could decide the necessity for referendum. Any drafted bill rejected by the Parliament could be passed through a referendum. This is provided that the given drafted bill is not a constitutional amendment. Regarding any other matter with nation importance in the opinion of the President, in order to receive the approval in referendum, it is necessary for the given bill to be passed with the absolute majority over above 50% of valid votes. However, it should be noted that if less than 2/3 of registered votes have casted votes, the referendum shall be considered passed with 1/3 of votes in favor. Most importantly, it should be noted that the President has the whole authority to call referendum. This has increased the power and influence of the President even further. This has allowed the President to go against the legislature and get a certain bill passed even when the legislature has directly rejected that bill. Since the introduction in 1978, a referendum was only held in Sri Lanka in 1982. This solitary referendum was held in to extend the official tenure of the parliament. In reality, this referendum was used as a political tool to prevent the government from losing the 5/6 majority power in the legislature. It is ironic to notice that one of the boldest democratic features in political science was used as a tool to restrict the democratic rights of citizens. Advantages of referendums under 1978 Constitution. The application of direct democracy, possibility for the public to take part in governance, possibility to control dominance of the parliament. Disadvantages of referendums under 1978 Constitution. Being used as a political tool, allowing the president to avoid the legislature, only the president having the power to call a referendum, the cost of referendums.
Right. So you guys can ask if you all have any questions. If not, this is a short note time. And then we are moving to the 13th Amendment. Okay.